Where am I? Everything is dark. There's something over my eyes. I try to take it off, but my arms won't move, or my legs. They're bound. No ropes, no irons. It feels fleshy, and it's pulsing. Oh gods. Have I been swallowed by some great monster? I hear footsteps. Someone's coming. Oh, merciful Tamara, get me out of here. My eyes can open now, and what is this thing? That's no man, nor elf, or even an orc. It's some kind of demon. It's tall, at least a head taller than me. Its skin is smooth purple and has a horrible tentacles. Its skin is smooth purple like a slug or sea creature. Those eyes are so far back in its head I can barely see them, and those tentacles where its mouth should be. It's reaching for something. It's pulling out a terrible worm-like thing. It reaches a hand out to me, letting the fouled creature slither onto my cheek. I can feel it crawling up my face, leaving a trail of cold slime. Until it's at my ear. I can feel its tiny mouth filled with little sharp teeth bite into me. It's burrowing into my ear. I can feel it move in my head, settling in my brain. I want to scream, to weep, to cry out, but I can't even move. My body is so relaxed. My strange binds have been released. I'm free! But I just stand there, staring at the hideous squid-faced monster in front of me. Wait, I can hear it. The tentacle-faced demon, it's speaking to me. At least I think it is. It doesn't have a mouth, but I can hear its voice all the same. My body goes rigid. I can't stop. I don't want to stop.
You have been chosen, Thrall. Soon, Ceramorphosis will begin.
The mind is a powerful thing. It can construct devious plots, build mighty fortresses, and unravel the mysteries of the arcane and the divine. But few creatures can tap into the true power of the mind, to bend the rules of reality to their whim and dominate the wills of lesser creatures through psionic force alone. Legends speak of creatures that are capable of such feats. Tales of brain-eating, tentacled abominations that dwell within the deepest reaches of the Underdark. To the ignorant surface dweller, they are known as Mind Flayers, but they call themselves the Illithids. A typical Illithid stands taller than a man, but skinnier. Their bodies cloaked in black and purple robes. Their skin is smooth, a light purple or grayish tint, and covered in a thin layer of mucus that is cool to the touch, much like a frog. Their eyes are a deep and lidless pit that faintly glow with malign intelligence and power. 4 muscular tentacles snake from their octopus-like head, flexing and flicking in anticipation. Unlike an octopus, however, the Illithid has no beak or even mouth. When it hunts, those tentacles protruding from its face grapple onto a victim, burrowing into their skulls. Then, like a spider, digestive enzymes are secreted into the brain of the victim, turning it into liquid. The tentacles suck these liquidized brains. While theoretically capable of feeding off the brains of any creature, Illithids stay on a strict diet of humanoid brains, with a preference for the more intelligent and wise species. Devouring a brain grants the Mind Flayer more than mere sustenance. The aberration experiences memories, personality, and the innermost fears of its victim, as it absorbs all psionic sensations of its prey, bringing with them a sensation of euphoria to the alien monster. All Illithids are powerful psionicists. With the raw power of their alien minds, they can create phenomena similar to spells of mages. Telekinesis, plane shift, domination, even the lowest among the Illithids can perform such feats. All Mind Flayers speak via telepathy, and can detect the thoughts of sentient life that is close by, like a predator can sense blood. This makes eavesdropping on a community of illithids impossible and often fatal. When in battle, a typical illithid will send out a surge of psychic energy. Any creature within range, or without a strong mind, will have their mind shattered from the inside, their brains scrambled like an egg, leaving them stunned and vulnerable, if not killed outright. While an illithid's psionic powers may seem like magic to most, it could not be more different. Illithids are capable of learning how to cast spells, but the practice of true magic is considered taboo within the illithid society. They see magic as wild and untamed, nowhere near as powerful or trustworthy as their psychic powers. Those that are discovering practicing the arcane arts in secret are treated as deviants, respected for their knowledge but shunned by their peers, and some of them are even banished from the colony. Despite their incredible psychic gifts, a Mind Flayer's body is physically weak. It lacks a true skeleton and possesses just enough muscle to move itself through space. Though sometimes, not even that amount, as most illithids prefer to levitate rather than walk. The Mind Flayers are well aware of this weakness, and therefore do everything they can to keep enemies at a distance, knowing how easily that a dwarf, an orc, or even a human could physically overpower them. In an age long forgotten, the great starry expanse of the astral sea was under the yoke of the Illithid Empire. They came into our reality from a terrible plane of existence, a place of unknowable horrors, forgotten knowledge, and great old ones, the Far Realm. After emerging from the Far Realm, the Illithids quickly began to conquer our reality. Riding upon great nautiloid ships in mighty armadas, these aberrations spread quickly and efficiently through the astral sea, conquering world after world. Their psychic powers and advanced technology allowed them to easily dominate all other sentient life. Endless resources, artifacts of power, and all the sentient brains they would ever need. But the Illithids were lordly, and did not sully themselves with labors needed to build an empire. For this they relied on their most prized species of slave, the Gith. Eventually, though, the Gith revolted. None can say if this slave species found some power to fight against the Mind Flayers, or if the Illithids themselves had become too decadent and lazy to see the threat. The Gith went on a quest of vengeance, rebelling against their masters and slaughtering them. They hunted down and killed every Illithid they could find, and destroyed as many of their outposts as possible. Entire worlds burned to ashes, and in less than 1 year, the Illithids went from the dominant force of life in the inner planes to a species on the cusp of extinction. Those few Illithids that survived the Gith uprising fled to the material plane, infiltrating the world and hiding within the deepest recesses, where the local life forms refer to them as Mind Flayers. From within their subterranean colonies, they do what they can to survive. But not once have they forgotten their ambition to dominate all life in the universe. They seek ways to accomplish this goal without being discovered, for the threat of extinction is all too real for the Mind Flayers, and survival is what is most important. For now. Mind Flayers gather in small groups known as colonies, deep within the Underdark. These colonies are so deep that only the Duergar and the Drow know of them. Safety and security of the colony is of utmost importance to the Illithids, so their lairs are well hidden, well defended, but always just close enough to humanoids and their succulent brains. No two lairs are alike, but all have one major similarity. An Illithid colony is more like a single living organism than a village or a state. Each Illithid within the colony is one mind among many, a single node in a vast telepathic network, a hive mind. The epicenter of this hive mind is the Elder Brain, a powerful entity and highest-ranking member of the Illithid species. Their will dominates the colony, and they move each individual as we might move our arms or legs. The most powerful entity within the Mind Flayer colony, the Elder Brain sees and hears everything that the Mind Flayers do. Information is shared among the colony instantaneously. Every memory and piece of knowledge that the Mind Flayer colony has gathered is stored within the Elder Brain. Its psychic powers are so intense that to face one is to face the terrors of the deepest recesses of forgotten space. But an Elder Brain's reach is not unlimited, and they cannot move on their own. And their psychic network only extends up to 5 miles. So any Mind Flayer that ventures further than the Elder Brain's reach does so only under strict orders to gather knowledge and food from the outside world and return it to the colony. The Elder Brain resides within the innermost sanctum of the Illithid colony, the Elder Brain Chamber. There the brain schemes and plots on how to grow the colony's influence. Elder Brains are arrogant, power-hungry, and yet quick to flee or beg for mercy in the face of death itself. It sees itself as not a monster, but a victim, a superior being forced into hiding at the hands of angry, barbaric monsters. Yet so too does it see itself as the sole savior of the Illithid race, a messiah of sorts that will lead its people to their rightful place as rulers of the universe once more. By its own twisted logic, individual Mind Flayers are mere extensions of the Elder Brain's body, both invaluable and disposable. And all brains devoured by the colony are rendered immortal, as their memories and knowledge are preserved forever within the Elder Brain's unfathomable mind. Under the guidance of the Elder Brain, a Mind Flayer colony continues to grow. They parasitize humanoids, capturing them for labor, food, and knowledge. Their thralls dig out rooms for the Mind Flayers to experiment, create monsters, and reproduce. The Elder Brain is, however, usually stuck within its own vast intellect. Concocting plans for the Illithid Empire to rise again may see the Elder Brain go into a quiet, almost comatose state for decades, even centuries at a time. So the day-to-day operations often fall to a unique and rare breed of Mind Flayer, an Ulithard. Ulithards are larger and more potent Mind Flayers that boast 6 tentacles protruding from their head instead of 4, with psionic and physical prowess that dwarfs all other Mind Flayers. An Ulithard is not bound by the Elder Brain's psionic network and has far more independence than the lesser Illithids. Typically, Elder Brains view an Ulithard as a favored servant. Others perceive this unique specimen and its independence as a threat and banish it from the colony. A banished Ulithard will likely have a few renegade Mind Flayers in tow following it. Far away, they establish their own colony. The Ulithard then undergoes a ritual suicide. The body dies, but its brain remains alive. Its loyal Mind Flayer followers retrieve the Ulithard's brain and place it in a pool of briny, viscous liquid. There, it completes its ascension into a brand new Elder Brain. Mind Flayers do not grow their numbers as more pleasant creatures do. They are parasites through and through, and rely on other humanoids to reproduce. If a thrall proves to be strong enough, they undergo a process called seramorphosis. Firstly, the thrall, typically a human, elf, or other medium-sized humanoid, is taken to the cleansing chambers. Here they are bathed, shaved of all their hair, and have any injuries or infections cured. The thrall is then led to the transformation chamber, where they are placed in prison pods, their minds and bodies bombarded with psionic energy to prepare them for the final stage. A Mind Flayer tadpole, an infantile version of an Illithid, is taken from a pool of briny water and placed upon the face of the thrall. The tadpole then burrows through the ear, up the nose, or even beneath the eye of its victim, entering into the brain. From there, the tadpole reconstructs the mind and body of the thrall, transforming it into a brand new Mind Flayer through a short but violent metamorphosis. Though vague memories of its past life linger, they are inconsequential compared to the irresistible power of the hive mind. This horrific process only takes 1 week. Illithid tadpoles can be removed by physical and magical means, but these must be done by an expert and within the first few days of being infected. Removing the tadpole too late, or incorrectly, will result in the death of the infected. Each illithid colony shares a common goal of dominating all life. To this end, they constantly research and hoard knowledge of the world and its denizens, capturing humanoids, devouring their brains or turning them into docile slaves or horrific monsters. Slow and steady growth, always moving in secret. That is the motto of an illithid colony. No topic of research with the exception of magic is taboo. One colony may study music in hopes to manipulate human emotions. Another may be researching humanoid foods to exploit our need for sustenance. In the end, the grand design of the illithids is all about how to achieve the goal of universal conquest. To accomplish this, each illithid colony follows one or more of the 3 strategic principles. Control. The colony following this order must grow, gather thralls and food for seramorphosis, operate only in small groups, and avoid confrontation with other species at all costs. Destruction. The colony must exploit the weakness of their enemies, attack quickly, without mercy, and cause as many casualties as possible without allowing for a counterattack. Subversion. The colony must study the societies of humanoids, learning their ways and engineering the collapse of their central authorities, sowing such chaos that the lesser species will be unable to fight back against the illithids. The Mind Flayer colonies operate with efficiency and seek to maintain their secrecy even after a major conflict. They are a paranoid bunch, and they despise being exposed or found out. Rightly so. The illithids have many enemies. They share the Underdark with the Drow and the Duergar, both which seek to destroy them, and the Gith are still hunting them down, and of course, all humanoids upon the surface revile Mind Flayers and seek their destruction. Mind Flayers communicate via telepathy, and they find true speech to be bizarre and disgusting. But when speech is necessary, for casting a spell or communicating with lesser races, a Mind Flayer will stick one of its tentacles down its throat to act as a tongue and vocal cord. The result is a harrowing sound that is intelligible but deeply unnatural. Such an act unnerves both the listener and the Mind Flayer itself. The written speech is called Qualith. Unlike ordinary writing, Qualith has no set rules. An illithid writes in Qualith by psionically imprinting their messages on ordinary, non-living materials such as stone or paper. The material is imprinted with psychic energy that flows through the Mind Flayer's tentacles. The writing is so fine that you need Mind Flayer tentacles, or your own psionic abilities to read it, and any amount of damage to Qualith inscriptions will destroy the writing beyond repair. Of course, you could just cast the Comprehend Languages spell in a pinch. The grotesque experimentation of the illithids are responsible for some of the most hated and disturbing monsters in the world. The Intellect Devourer is a monster made of the extracted brain of a humanoid, attached to mammalian or reptilian legs that are used by the Mind Flayers as sentries, watchdogs, and bait to lure in victims. A Mind Witness are terrible hybridizations of a Mind Flayer and a Beholder. If the Beholder is successfully infected with an illithid tadpole, a change turns the monster into a beacon of psychic power, amplifying the psionic abilities of all nearby illithids. Neolithids are horrors hated by the Mind Flayers. When the foolish humanoids destroy a Mind Flayer colony but fail to kill all the tadpoles, The unattended creature begins to grow in immense size, devouring everything in their path and drawing unwanted attention to the colony. When a team of Mind Flayers manages to capture and bind a dragon, they offer its still living to the Elder Brain. The Elder Brain latches onto the dragon like a parasite, digging its tentacles into the dragon's brain, resulting in an Elder Brain dragon. No longer a lethargic schemer swimming in a pool of briny water, the Elder Brain now is a powerful general of Illithid armies, both a psychic and physical threat that can spew forth a shower of ravenous Illithid tadpoles, allowing the Elder Brain to conduct ceramorphosis en masse, infecting and changing an entire village in a single day. The Mind Flayers may be a species trying desperately to stave off extinction, but they have not forgotten their old glory as the dominant life in the inner planes. But for now they must hide in the dark. Their deep, pitted eyes gaze at your skull, and their tentacles twitch in anticipation of the succulent mind within. Thank you all so much for watching. You're all awesome. I want to point out all the missing Mind Flayer lore that didn't make it into the video. There was so much of it, and I had to make serious cuts to keep the video from being way too long, so I apologize, Mind Flayer Lich. Your time will come. But if you enjoyed this type of D&D content, then let me know by leaving a like, a comment, share the video around with your friends, and possibly subscribing. The next video coming up is all about ethereal undead, and should really help get us into the spirit of the game. As usual, these topics were chosen by you, so thank you to everyone who voted in the community poll for these ideas. For those of you that didn't get a chance to vote, keep an eye out. There'll definitely be more polls in the future. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.